Welcome to Module 3, Anti-Harassment, Intimidation, and Bullying. The basis for the module is to create safe learning environments that promote health and well-being for all children in Ohio schools. This module will cover harassment, intimidation, and bullying that occurs verbally or physically at school and on school buses, and/or through the use of technology. Also included in this module is awareness of and action to take when school staff or faculty witness signs of teen relationship abuse. The risk factors for perpetration of harassment, intimidation, and bullying and teen relationship abuse occur along the social ecological continuum, meaning that they occur on the individual, relationship, community, and societal levels, and not in isolation from one another. Often, these risk factors are the same, as one study recently identified, including things like exposure to community violence, witnessing parental intimate partner violence, delinquent behavior, and childhood physical or sexual abuse. Healthy relationships among community members are the foundation for a safe community. Schools are just one part of a larger community. They are also a community unto themselves. Healthy relationship skills, therefore, must be taught, learned, and practiced, not only in the home, but in the community and in the schools as well. Think for a minute of all the places in your community where youth have interactions. The football game on Friday night, on the school bus, walking to and from school in the classroom setting or online. As adult learners in your community and school, you serve as a role model to students. Every time you respectfully disagree with a colleague or have to correct a student's behavior firmly yet kindly, you are modeling safe behaviors for students. The kinds of violence mentioned happen too frequently and represent serious barriers to learning for young people. Whether a student is a target of violence by adults or by other students, the impact on the student's life and his or her learning can be profound. The same can be said for the majority of students who are neither the aggressors nor the targets, but rather are bystanders and witness the violence. Often, these students do not have the skills to intervene in appropriate ways, including something seemingly as simple as how to tell a trusted or other adult. Sometimes overlooked, though also important to recognize and respond to, is the impact the bullying or teen relationship abuse behaviors have on the student who is perpetrating them. The increased responsibility may seem overwhelming, but knowing about and establishing relationships with key community resources is essential. Schools are not expected to do this work alone. Possible negative health outcomes of harassment, intimidation, and bullying or teen relationship abuse, whether the target of the actions or the bystander, includes mental health issues such as depression, substance abuse, post-traumatic stress disorder, hypervigilance, self-injurious behaviors, and/or suicide. Some young people who are targets of violence or are the perpetrators may become aggressive, abusive, and violent towards others. School professionals can and must interrupt the destructive cycle of violence through proactive measures and appropriate referrals. It is important to recognize, reach out, and refer before problems can escalate to life-altering levels. Noticing and acting on risk behaviors employed by students who bully others or choose to use abusive and controlling behaviors with their dating partner is critically important for school professionals. School staff should fully understand and often refer back to their mandated reporter obligations or seek advice and assistance if unsure about what to do. In many cases, students who are living with abuse, targeted for bullying, or in an abusive relationship have been conditioned by the perpetrator to believe that no one can help them. School professionals may be their only hope. School professionals may question why these issues are now expected to be addressed by schools. One reason is that in Ohio, it is the law. Another reason is that youth are bullied, harassed, intimidated, or are experiencing relationship abuse will not be able to adequately focus on academics due to the violence and increased stress in their lives. Finally, harassment, intimidation, and bullying and teen relationship abuse are community issues that need a community response. Schools are just one piece of the puzzle, and quite possibly the only, or often the first institution with direct contact with youth on a daily basis. Your proximity to youth puts you in a prime position to recognize and act on the various issues students struggle with on any given day. Universal training on harassment, intimidation, and bullying, and teen relationship abuse exposes all youth and school staff to information on these issues. Underlying the universal approach is that no one is immune from harassment, intimidation, and bullying and teen relationship abuse. It can and does happen to youth regardless of social, economic, class, or racial characteristics. It would be unfair and inaccurate to assume that only troubled students or students displaying outward signs of distress need quality information, prevention education, or intervention. Bullying. How do I know what to look for? Research identifies bullying as a public health issue. It suggests that prevalence and incidence rates for bullying are difficult to narrow down due to the wide range of studies using various definitions and measures of the problem. This basis of research indicates that nearly 30% of American youth have been affected by bullying experiences. In general, bullying is understood as repeated, intentional, and aggressive acts by one student or a group of students against another student who is perceived as being weaker or having less social power than the person who is doing the bullying. Bullying can be direct and physical, including hitting, pushing, and spitting. Indirect or social, including name-calling and rumors. Or relational, including exclusion from relationships to control others. It could be gender-based, including verbal and physical unwanted sexual attention and coercion, and/or insults, intimidation based on sexual orientation. Teen relationship abuse and dating violence. How do I know what to look for? Teen dating violence is a pattern of actual or threatened acts of physical, sexual, and/or emotional abuse perpetrated by an adolescent against a current or former dating partner. Abuse may include insults, coercions, social sabotage, sexual harassment, threats, and/or acts of physical or sexual abuse. The abusive teen uses this pattern of violent and coercive behavior in a heterosexual or homosexual dating relationship in order to gain power and maintain control over the dating partner. Of note and unique to abuse in same-sex relationships, a study found that threats of being outed, revealing a partner's sexual orientation to others such as family, friends, and classmates were used by abusive partners. Abusive and violent behaviors include the following. Physical abuse: pinch, hit, shove, kick, throw, grab, shake, slap, punch, with the intent of controlling and manipulating. Sexual abuse: any unwanted sexual contact, completed or attempted sex act, sexual contact as in touching, non-contact sexual abuse, pornography, voyeurism, and threats, and can range from kissing to rape. Psychological, emotional, or verbal abuse or coercion could include controlling and/or monitoring, manipulating and/or humiliation, name-calling, verbal assaults and threats, and withholding information from dating partner. Electronic or technological abuse: unwanted and excessive texts or posts on the internet, causes emotional distress and serves no legitimate purpose, stalking and manipulation. I'd like to provide you with some facts about bullying and violence. First, there are tremendous consequences for both the students who bully and those who are being bullied. Suicidal and homicidal behavior, depression, and other self-destructive behaviors may be present. Consequences of bullying. Research generally bears out that bullying has many significant mental health and physical effects for the target of the bullying behaviors face-to-face and online. Research notes that a quarter of victims experience more than one type of victimization, and that targets suffer from suicide ideations, anxiety, and depression symptoms as a result. They further note that bystanders may suffer post-traumatic stress disorder through witnessing bullying, and that perpetrators are at greater risk for increased escalation in the types of bullying they may later engage in. Other consequences include low self-esteem and avoidance behaviors, anger control, maladaptive coping strategies, and higher levels of internalizing and externalizing problems, feelings of worthlessness, alienation, substance abuse, and homelessness, and impact school climate, attendance, and dropout rates. Bullying may also take on different forms at different ages. Attention to bullying behavior that takes place online is common among adolescents and should be on the radar of adults to prevent or intervene. In addition, bullying may become sexual violence at the middle or high school ages. Some studies have shown a predictive pattern of future victimization and perpetration in their adult relationships for those teens with history of teen dating violence. The students who either silently tolerate, out of fear or acceptance, the bullying behavior or actively promote the violence can be addressed in universal, evidence-informed curricula that promote healthy relationships, bystander intervention, and responsible school citizenship. Such intervention with bystanders can be extremely effective because bystanders can be taught how to address the behaviors together and tell students who bully to stop and/or contact adults who will intervene. But research indicates that school professionals need to know what to do, too. 71% of teachers believe that they always intervene in bullying situations, while only 25% of students report that teachers always intervene. Second, it is important to consider that bullying and violence can happen between two people or between groups of people and can occur in person or in cyberspace. When you think about our school and community, what are the types of violence that you see, and what are the potential causes of this violence? What can teachers and other educators do? In what direct ways can schools reduce violence and promote a safe environment for all students and staff? One important answer is that schools can create and reinforce a respectful school climate. In Creating Emotionally Safe Schools, a guide for educators and parents, cites research from around the country that highlights the connection between effective learning and academic safety, emotional safety, social safety, behavioral safety, and physical safety. According to the U.S. Departments of Education and Justice and the American Institutes for Research, effective school violence prevention builds a school-wide foundation of safety for all children. This involves supporting positive discipline, academic success, and mental and emotional wellness through a caring school environment, face-to-face and online, teaching students appropriate behaviors and problem-solving skills, providing positive behavioral support, delivering appropriate academic instruction with engaging curricula and effective teaching practices, and training for staff to recognize early warning signs and make appropriate referrals. One approach familiar to teachers and recommended by Futures Without Violence is the use of teachable moments. In general, teachable moments are events that happen in conversation between students or that youth see in the media or at home that lend themselves to further exploration. Futures Without Violence suggests this model: say it, claim it, stop it. The model is clear, concise, and effective when used consistently to disrupt unhealthy behaviors. Let's look at each one. Say it. The teacher, school, staff, bus driver say what the offending behavior was that just occurred. Saying it allows all students to hear what is and what is not acceptable in a teacher's or school staff or bus driver's presence. Claim it. The teacher or school, staff or bus driver owns her or his space and makes clear to students that offensive and hurtful words or behaviors are not tolerated in their space. Stop it. The teacher or staff member tells the student that the words or behaviors are not to be used again in their presence. The teacher or staff member must be calm and consistent, and use of this model sets clear expectations and boundaries for all students about what types of language and behaviors will not be tolerated. Finally, healthy relationships rely on several skills that are learned over time. They require ongoing practice through an evidence-informed curriculum approach. Communication, which involves learning to listen as well as to express oneself effectively. Recognizing and setting boundaries, which involves being able to identify an individual's comfort level about relationship issues and to navigate and negotiate those boundaries with a partner. Critical thinking, to analyze the motivations for one's own actions and the actions of others. Assertiveness, to address and withstand peer pressure as well as pressure within a dating relationship, and skills to enter and exit relationships safely and respectfully. Empathy and capacity to respond to and to intervene and help friends in unhealthy situations in relationships. Responsible use of technology and social networking. It is fair to say that students will struggle with building these skills, and school staff, teachers, and bus drivers may see an increase in negative behaviors. This is to be expected, but can be mitigated by consistently and fairly applying the say it, claim it, and stop it model, and by providing ample opportunities for youth to practice their newly acquired skills. It is critical that you do not try to mediate a situation of bullying or violence. Bullying is not a mediation issue. One of the characteristics of a bullying interaction is a power differential between the student who bullies and student being bullied. Unfortunately, power differentials cannot be mediated. The student who bullies and the student being bullied should be worked with separately. How to respond, recognize, reach out, and refer. The indicators of bullying are similar to some of the indicators we have discussed in the previous modules. You can see why making timely referrals can address a host of potential problems students have. As indicated, there are specific warning signs that a student might become violent. Here, too, the need for early identification and referral is evident. The most important thing you can do is to recognize the students, the signs, and the symptoms of distress. Reach out to them, tell them you care, and make the appropriate referral so that they can get the help they need to be successful in school and in life. It is not optional for you to recognize, reach out, and refer incidents of bullying in your school. Ohio law now mandates that schools have a policy prohibiting bullying, harassment, and intimidation, with a specified legal definition of these terms and with specific requirements related to reporting, investigating, and intervening in these incidents. Once aware of students being harassed, intimidated, or bullied, the following key messages will assist educators as they respond to student disclosure. Key messages to use with students once disclosure has occurred. Things you would consider saying may be, "Thank you for sharing something so personal with me." It is important to let the student know that you are concerned and that you want the behavior to stop. Other things to consider saying: "You deserve to be safe. Abuse is not your fault. I appreciate that you trust me with this information." You may also want to explain limits of confidentiality and mandated reporter role. You may also say, Let's talk for a little bit about what our next steps are. I'm glad you brought this to my attention. I may not be able to answer all your questions, but I will get you connected to someone who can help. I'm concerned about you. Can we talk about this more with the guidance counselor or with another trusted adult at school? Before a disclosure, abuse, mental health issues, and bullying, these are things that need to be considered. Know your own biases about these issues. Practice how you will respond to a student disclosure, incorporating youth-centered and non-judgmental approaches. Be open to learning and incorporating new information that challenges your own beliefs. Know to whom to refer appropriate school supports and services. Your role is one of support and referral. You will not be expected to investigate a student's situations or claims, nor should you. Prepare how you will take care of yourself after a disclosure by a student of suicidal intention, abuse, and trafficking. Is there a staff-convened task force or working group on these issues? If so, does it make sense at this time to join or consult with them? Reporting and referral requirements. According to Ohio's Anti-Harassment, Intimidation, and Bullying model, teachers and other school staff who witness acts of harassment, intimidation, or bullying shall promptly notify the building principal and/or his or her designee of the event observed, and shall promptly file a written incident report concerning the events witnessed. Teachers and other school staff who receive student or parents' reports of suspected harassment, intimidation, and bullying shall promptly notify the building principal and/or his or her designee of such reports. If the report is a formal written complaint, such complaint shall be forwarded promptly, no later than the next school day, to the principal or his or her designee. If the report is an informal complaint by a student that is received by a teacher or other professional employee, he or she shall prepare a written report of the informal complaint, which shall be promptly forwarded, no later than the next school day, to the building principal or his or her designee. Section 2.2.11 of Ohio's Anti-Harassment, Intimidation, and Bullying Model Policy states a school district employee, student, or volunteer shall be individually immune from liability in a civil action for damages arising from reporting an incident in accordance with a policy if that person reports an incident of harassment, intimidation, or bullying promptly in good faith and in compliance with the procedures specified in the policy. As an educator in the state of Ohio, you are a mandated reporter of suspected child abuse. According to the Ohio Revised Code, you must report knowledge or suspicion of child abuse to your local Child Protective Services agency. Such reports, which can be made anonymously, should be made following your school district's policies and procedures. Note that an amendment to the Ohio Revised Code in March of 2007 states that an educator's failure to report suspicion of child abuse is a first-degree misdemeanor, punishable by up to 6 months in prison and up to a $1,000 fine. In addition, educators should adhere to district policies for reporting incidents of harassment, intimidation, and bullying. Educators should be knowledgeable of their district or building policy and procedures for reporting and referring identified students. Educators should know where incidents of harassment, intimidation, and bullying should be reported. There are efforts to ensure schools are safe places where kids who are depressed or suicidal get help, where kids who are using alcohol and drugs are noticed, and where bullies, their targets, and children living in abusive homes are helped. This is the kind of school our children deserve and that we can all work to achieve. We hope that you will work with your school improvement team or school climate committee to create schools like this. The next 4 questions are meant for reflection in your current practice as a school professional. Number 1, what experience have you had with students that display signs and symptoms of harassment, intimidation, and bullying in your classroom or school building? Number 2, how comfortable and confident do you feel about identifying a student displaying the signs and symptoms of harassment, intimidation, and bullying? Number 3, how comfortable and confident do you feel about referring a student displaying the signs of symptoms of harassment, intimidation, and bullying? And finally, it is very important that you find out what the referral process for students in your building is. National, state, and local resources. StopBullying.gov coordinates closely with the federal partners in the Bullying Prevention Steering Committee, an interagency effort led by the Department of Education that works to coordinate policy, research, and communications on bullying topics. StopBullying.gov provides information from various government agencies on what bullying is, what cyberbullying is, who is at risk, and how you can prevent and respond to bullying. You can visit www.stopbullying.gov for more information. The Ohio Department of Education and several state agencies have formed the Ohio Anti-Harassment, Intimidation, and Bullying Initiative to sponsor professional development about Ohio's anti-harassment, intimidation, and bullying model policy and best practices for creating a safe and supportive learning environment. You can visit www.education.ohio.gov and use the search term bullying. Local district and building leaders should partner with mental health agencies, law enforcement, health department, local rape crisis center, or a domestic violence shelter to receive prevention education or intervention supports. Relationships with these agencies can inform staff through professional development, students through evidence-based curriculum, and the community through joint activities or strategies for behavior change to create healthy schools and communities. This completes Lesson 3, Anti-Harassment, Intimidation, Bullying, and Team Relationship Abuse in Schools and on School Buses.